I hope everybody's having a great day. Well, today I'm going to give my 10 reasons that I don't care for Kamala Harris and I think people should not vote for her. The first one is her trans activism. She's all about the puberty blockers and mastectomies for adolescent girls, castration for young boys, indoctrination in schools that includes drag queen story hours, pornographic textbooks, and stories that normalize perversion. Overall, Kamala's pick of Tim Walz also tells us a lot about where she's at on these things. He's one of the most progressive people in the nation on trans things. He kind of wants to make Minnesota sort of a trans heaven or something. I'm not sure exactly what his goal is, but for every bad idea that there is, he wants Minnesota to be filled with it. And consequently, that's how America will be if we bring these clowns into the White House. The second reason is her record. She has a record as a prosecutor in California that is pretty daunting. She withheld evidence that would have exonerated death row inmates, and she kept people in prison beyond their allotted time just so she could use them in her forced labor camps in California. Kamala's unpredictability would put the country at great risk. She doesn't seem to have any limitations on the evil that she's willing to commit in her own interests. Abortion is another thing that is really problematic with her. Whether you're pro-life or just for the three exceptions, or maybe at the 15-week point, some arguments could be made that at least would make some sense. But Kamala is too radical for any of these. Her choice of Tim Walz once again tells us a lot about where she's at. He sponsored this abortion in Minnesota to the minute of birth. This should tell you everything you need to know about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I'm sorry, but killing an infant in the birth canal to make sure that it's dead before it comes out, it doesn't make any sense to me. At the point of viability, why shouldn't a child be saved? It does not make any sense that a viable baby should have to be put to death after the woman's already carried it 7, 8, 9 months. Why not just have the baby? It doesn't make any sense to kill it. Why kill it at that point? Is that just revenge? I can't imagine why a woman would want to kill a baby at this point, nor any doctor. Another issue that she champions is this government-funded college for all. A lot of high school grads just don't have any business going to college. We already have like the A+ programs that provide 2 years of free college for decent students. It's very expensive to send people to college. If you think about it, tens of thousands per child. If a family has 3 kids, the government's going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to send these kids to college, whether they really need it, especially if they're just going for social reasons and not a clearly defined academic path. When I went to college, very few of the kids there had any kind of clearly defined path. They didn't know what they wanted to do, and to me, this is a tremendous waste of government money, the same as it's a tremendous waste of any parent's money to send a kid to school that doesn't even know what it is that they want to do. And so funding college for every person, while it sounds nice in theory, it's just so cost prohibitive and so impractical. An awful lot of people just don't belong in college. Another reason that Kamala is problematic is her Second Amendment stances. A lot like abortion, I look at the Second Amendment and even the First Amendment as being slippery slope issues. One compromise leads to another. Rare and exceptional, of course, became kill them until they're 2 years old. Banning assault weapons, then you're banning anything above .22 caliber, and then you're banning super soakers. If you give these people an inch, they're going to take a mile. And it's the same way with free speech, too. You can't just pick and choose what speech is free and what speech isn't, because then you get into too much area of subjectivity, and who's going to be the arbiter of these things? Well, there's no person that can be considered the arbiter of these things, and so you just have a big old mess on your hands. And so these type of issues are very problematic for Democrats in general, and even more problematic for Kamala because she just isn't a very smart person. Number 6 on my list is, I look at her mentor Biden, and Kamala is very similar. They're both very lost without a teleprompter. And this leads me to believe that in Kamala's case, that she's just simply not very bright. When speaking off the cuff, we hear really odd stories about the passage of time. We'll hear stories about our everlasting friendship with North Korea and elementary school stories about the geography of Eastern Europe. It's very awkward around these world leaders. It's kind of embarrassing, really. Listening to her talk, my guess is that she doesn't know any more than a high school kid would know about the world anywhere outside of San Francisco, California. Kamala lacks seriousness as an adult. I have a very hard time taking her very seriously. She struggles to complete sentences without laughing awkwardly. The fact that she somehow went from having a 30% approval rating nationwide to 50% in a week or two, it tells me that America is being played. And it also tells me that there's got to be some fudging of the numbers. There's no way people waffle that fast on something like that. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe for 1 second that world leaders would ever take this woman seriously. One of the really big problems I have with Kamala Harris is that she has no moral compass. To start with, she knew that Biden was senile for these last 3.5 years, but she participated in this big cover-up very much to the detriment of our country. She kept people in prison while she was working in California for the good of her labor camps. She withheld evidence to keep a man on death row, although she says she feels bad. Well, I suspect she feels bad about getting caught. And how is this not a crime? Why isn't you just, that's just falsifying information and really at the detriment of a human being. It's horrible. But she got her start in politics through an inappropriate affair with Willie Brown. When she was 29 years old and he was 60, he decided he needed some arm candy, and so he took up with her, even though he was married and with 3 kids. And this led to him getting her a couple of jobs, appointing to a couple of boards is what it was. They was very part-time in what she had to do, just a few hours a week to get $70,000 a year on one and $90,000 a year on others. And all she had to do is just show up for a board meeting now and then. And these were supposed to be jobs that were, they were supposed to be reserved for some high-level Democrat grifters, but she ended up jumping the line because of Willie Brown. So, I'm sure that they couldn't have been too happy about that, but it worked out pretty good for her. He, of course, helped her through those first campaigns, and he's the one that's responsible for her rise to greatness, as it were. I also find that it's funny that until recent weeks, even Democrats wanted her off the ticket. They wanted her off the ticket. They wanted a different VP. They didn't want her not at the head of the ticket. They didn't even want her as the second fiddle. But they never got her off the ticket, and Biden sort of installed her. And through the miracle of modern journalism, now she seems to be the smartest woman on earth. Please. The last thing that I'll have to say about her is that her support of the George Floyd riots and raising money to get all these instigators out of jail, it led to big problems in the future. She got them out of jail and they went on to commit serious crimes. And I believe even a murder was committed after this by one of these people that she bailed out. So she is complicit, in some serious crimes that's going on in Minnesota with her buddy in crime, Waltz, over there. And so that's my 10 reasons that I think Kamala should never be president, and that, in fact, I just don't think she's a very good person. Anyway, I'll talk to you in a while. Hope you guys have a great day.